Welcome, FCS fans, to another episode of 1AA Parlays, the show where we talk about FCS lines, betting lines across the country. And gosh, we're running out of time here, man. The weeks are dwindling away. The regular season now, just what, 2 weeks remain? Yeah, 2 weeks remain before we head to playoff time. So I'm your host, Colby Peterson. With me today to chat betting lines, the master himself. We've got Montana Parlay. Parlay, how you been, man?
I'm doing all right. I wish my actual betting record was as good as the AA Parlays record. If the people following me are doing a lot better financially than I am when it comes to sports betting this year, I'm sure. So I'll keep it rolling for you guys. You can Venmo me if you feel sorry for me.
Buy Parlay a beer if you feel bad for him, man. Or, Parlay, you going to go to Frisco this year?
Oh, yeah, I'll be there.
Parlay's there one way or another. You have an opportunity to buy him something there, too. But before we get into the show, want to give a big shout-out to the Fans Nation Network and FCS Fans Nation. Appreciate those guys for letting us do this show on their network and on their platforms. Make sure to check those guys out. There are a number of really good shows on the network. And, of course, the main show, FCS Fans Nation. They had to do it live this week. I ended up listening to it, and it was fun. Although the one thing I did miss is they always have that little snippet at the end of the show that's obviously before the cameras roll. That one wasn't in there obviously this week, but I love that stuff. But good show this week. Make sure to check those guys out. Really appreciate them. Parlay, I was going to say I have had just a string of bad luck. I've been hitting on some of these things, but I'm pairing them with bets that don't hit. So all my parlays keep getting blown up. And it's just man, just unlucky that way. But let's take a look at last week, man, because there were some good things. There were some not so good things. Let's start with you, man. Furman +1, printing money.
Yes. Started hot. The two earlier games, I guess the one USD under was over was early game too. But yeah, Furman, I honestly, if I would have thought about it ahead of time as a Bobcat fan, someone who likes to go to the quarterfinal and semifinal matchups, I really should have put a lot more money on Furman +1 because them winning out gives them a good shot of being a higher seed than Montana State. So I found myself rooting for a game which I shouldn't have been rooting for unless I had a lot of money on the line, and I really didn't. But it hit for you guys out there, my faithful followers. And then the other easy one, that one was a tough one, but the easy one, Idaho, in just a typical letdown game. Man, they've had a dream schedule. They got the Bobcats off a bye after the Bobcats had to go to Sacramento, and the Bobcats were practicing out in the cold all week. Then their typical letdown week, they get to play at the worst team in the Big Sky Conference, and still it was close. So, if Idaho got Weber the week after they beat the Bobcats, I think Weber might have won that game. We'll talk more about this next one coming up. USD, South Dakota at SIU. SIU's got one of the best QBs in the country. South Dakota's been putting up points. That number was low for a reason, though. They knew something. I don't know what's going on with those offenses lately, but SIU does have a great defense, and they've shown it against good offenses. But their offense can't score either right now. I don't know what's going on. That under hit, and I bet the over 37.5. And finally, I tell myself this every week: don't bet on crappy teams. And what did I do? I bet Idaho State, the Stripes as you call them, +8.5, and they didn't cover. It wasn't really close. Davis is looking like the team they were when they were getting hot last year, but it's probably too little, too late for their playoff hopes. So 2-2. We paid the book their vig. Someone's got to keep the lights on for those books.
Yeah, I don't blame you for taking ISU, taking the Stripes +8.5, because like we've talked about, my Weber State Wildcats, the offense has had some struggles. It has been improving, but we didn't know. the Wildcats have had this really tough go of stopping teams that have thrown the ball well, and that's all that Idaho State does. They throw the ball. That's all they do. And so I didn't know what to expect from that team because Stripes fans were feeling very confident going into that one, and I think maybe, Dubcat fans weren't feeling as confident, but, the Wildcats at Holt Arena, it's same old, same old. Sing the song in the locker room. We're going home with a dub, and that's what happened. So, but I do want to go back here to go ahead.
I mixed up the games. Davis is this weekend against the Stripes.
Hawkins Bowl, yep.
Weber was the one team that was looking like, the Stripes should at least stick within a touchdown with them, and
right.
No, they not close.
Yeah. I was going to go back to what Kevin said here. Trying to tell us about Furman. I went to that game. I will say that Chat had their chances to beat Furman there late. They had, and they just couldn't seem to put it together. Turnovers really did a number on them. But, man, Furple, like you said, if they win out, they will have a really good chance at a higher seed probably than Montana State, even should the Bobcats win out. But, yeah, Furple +1 looked really good, and it ended up paying off. They ended up winning by 3. All right, Parlay. Well, let's talk about the prop bet, though. Fade the Montana schools. How'd that work? It wasn't
so much a prop. It was more of like there was a middle opportunity. And let's forget about trying to middle the Grizzlies. They took care of any middle. That game was well over early in the third quarter. I think Sac, were too busy fighting themselves to do anything against the Grizz, and total domination. But something pretty spectacular happened. If you did what I said and you lived on the Wyoming border, Montana-Wyoming border, and you bet NAU plus 27.5 in Montana, and then went back and went on FanDuel and bet the Montana State plus or minus 21.5, you won both because of one, Daniel Britt, ex-Grizz, came back with the late game deep middle hitting touchdown to the chagrin of Sportsbet Montana, because they closed their line at, you didn't even have to cross the border into Wyoming. You could have bet early in the week on NAU plus 27.5 and then grab the Bobcats at 21 or 22.5. That's where that line was bouncing around on Saturday morning. So, and the game ended up being a 24-point game. So that's smack dab right in the middle of those two numbers. You could have held both tickets, come away a winner on both sides, thanks to an ex-Grizz.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, very, very specific. But like you said, kind of that 6-point swing in the middle there, enough there to, like you said, play both sides. And so if you got them at those lines in those spots, you're doing well. Sac, though, you're right. That game well over in the third quarter. Sac just didn't do anything good enough that they could overcome. The Grizz have an absolutely stout run defense, and it felt like that was really all. That was Sac's prayer, because they don't seem like a terribly prolific team that throws the ball this year. So they just couldn't do anything, and they seem to have found something in their quarterback, and they've got some momentum. But, yeah, that one wasn't in doubt. Ever. Let's talk about some of mine, man. I had some hits, had some misses. Harvard, Columbia, over 38.5. Not a problem. Harvard took care of business. Columbia chipped in a little bit, but Harvard mostly did most of the heavy lifting, handled Columbia easily. Like I said last week, Columbia, not a great team. Harvard has been a good team. The offense was where it needed to be for Harvard and easily hit the over. All good. Life moves on. Bill and Mary under. I mean, UAlbany, and like this was a match made in heaven for the under, because UAlbany has got this really stout defense. Bill and Mary has this stout defense. Neither team could do anything. Under 40.5, money. Like that one. I'll have to look this week. We'll talk a little bit more about where maybe Bill and Mary and UAlbany are hanging out this week, because could be another opportunity for an under. I feel like, I don't know, Parlay, I don't know if you got the numbers, but Bill and Mary on the under this season, it's got to be a high percentage. It's got to be pretty healthy. They've been hitting them, man.
I think
But
maybe
that's
one of their overs is hit.
yeah, it's just like that offense just has not produced enough, but that defense is stingy enough that they just okay, Patrick's getting me here. He's like, do you pay for flow? I 100% do not pay for flow. And I think the other guys on the Fans Nation network here have made no bones about it. They don't pay for flow either. So we're just hanging out, watching box scores, and yeah, Bill and Mary have just not been very prolific.
I'd rather pay to watch more flow from Progressive ads than that stupid network, and I hate those ads.
Yeah, hey man, but the Rev Dustin Helton here saying Bill and Mary's about as exciting as watching paint dry. Yeah, that's what happens when you have. I mean, Weber State Wildcat fan, right? I've seen many a team come from Ogden that has this insane defense and just a very middle to anemic offense who just gets these ugly wins. Unfortunately,
Might as well be Sherman Williams.
yeah, unfortunately for Bill and Mary, those dubs have not come this year. So. Yeah, so that was an easy one, but that's where my Saturday started to fall apart. We got to Western Carolina, Wofford. That game didn't go as I thought. I was going to take the over at 55.5. I thought Western Carolina would really kind of stack the score up, and they didn't. And so, that's what it was. And then finally, Portland State at plus 4.5. No, it didn't happen. They ended up getting slapped, so it is what it is. So I went 2 for 2. Parlay, you went 2 for 2. I'm starting to pull you down to my level. The 2 for 2 is that's a Colby percentage, man. Parlay needs to get back up to the 3-1, 4-0 for a week. So on the season now, Parlay sitting at 18-9 on the season record. Colby right under 100 or 500, sitting at 13-14. So I really need to do something here if I want to get over 500 and maybe qualify for a bowl game. Just kidding. We don't do bowl games because they're stupid. All right, man. Let's talk about this week.
Bowl.
I don't mind the Celebration Bowl. I think it's a real championship. But being bowl games, do you really care about watching the Tax Slayer Bowl? I don't care. All right, Parlay. Give me what you got this week, because now, like I said, we're into week 11, I believe now, and there's some stuff out there.
Yeah. So I was thinking pretty Valley heavy this week, and actually I took some off. I took some off. The one that struck me first that, I know it's a road game and that can be tough, but they are just on fire lately in late season form. UNI -5 at Missouri State, I believe. That struck me as that could be a blowout. That could be -15, and I'd still say I wouldn't like Missouri State. So I like UNI -5. They're on a roll right now.
Yeah, they're peaking, right?
They're peaking at the right time. We could have ourselves, if something crazy happens in Ohio this weekend, we could have ourselves a 3-way Valley tie at the end of the year.
Yeah,
no, Jackrabbit fans.
That's
probably not going to happen.
No,
but,
I mean, it is at the Ice Castle, but I don't know, man. I don't know about the Penguins. I don't think they got it.
So UNI -5 is my first one. Then to stay in the Valley, at first I had the under in this game, but then I started thinking North Dakota State has their defense has been not good. Yeah. Then someone said SIU's offense is overrated, but you know what? I think they're going to come inside in the dome. They're going to put up some points. I don't know if they're going to win, but they're going to cover. SIU +7.5 against the Bison. That's what the early lines are showing. Sometimes Bison are like the Grizz. Game day, their fans come out betting money, although maybe Bison fans aren't as supportive or confident in their team this year. So if that goes above 8, then yeah, definitely jump on it. But I like SIU +7.5. I can't bet that one legally, at least because of Illinois sports betting laws.
So weird to me, man. That is so weird to me.
Yeah. Hope it hits for you guys. Then this one is interesting. This might be a first this year, is where the Grizz on the offshore books have a lower line than they do in Montana. Wait. Yeah, I did. Yeah. It's, well, no, that happens all the time. I got ahead of myself. I'm thinking Montana State is the other way around. Sorry, my bad. The Grizz are lower offshore, as they always are, because in Montana, people hammer the Grizz. Apparently, the big money is always on the Grizz. Like I've always said, they're the Yankees of the FCS. They're the Cowboys of the FCS. That's where the public money is. So in Montana, it's 12.5, which I still wouldn't bet on Portland State necessarily. And right now, the offshore books, which usually the legal, the FanDuels, the Barstools, the Bet Rivers, the MGMs tend to follow, is 7. And I love the Grizz at 7. They are shutting teams down.
Yeah.
We're talking trap games. Last year, both the Cats and the Grizz rolled in the week before Cat Grizz. I like Montana to win by double digits. I like Bobby to crush little Bobby. Bobby versus Robbie. Bobby's coming out on top. Grizz -7. Take it all day long. Where I screwed up last time and what I meant was Montana State. This doesn't happen. They're 18.5 sports bet Montana, which is lower than the 20.5 they're showing right now in the other books, which is interesting. Usually the Montana books have the higher numbers on Montana teams. So I would put at least a half a unit. If you're a Bobcat fan and you don't like big spreads, put a half a unit on it because there's a little bit of value right there. And it's just a strength versus weakness matchup.
Yeah.
Strongest running team in the land versus a crappy running defense. Awful running defense.
And Eagles fans will tell you that, right? Like it's been that way for a few years in Cheney, that like stopping the run has been a problem, and the Bobcats are prolific. They're probably the best in the country to do it.
Yeah. And if Kyler were in Montana this weekend, I bet he'd be dropping some beer money on these props that are coming up, because I like these props. They're fun. Put 10 or $20 on them. Tommy, 1 pass TD and 1 rush TD, plus 130. Okay, you're getting plus odds on Tommy to get a touchdown in the air and a touchdown on the ground. Take it. The one that is really fun to root for is Tommy and Sean, Chambers and Malott, both to get 80 yards or more. That could be 1 run for each of them.
Yeah, on the ground. Yeah.
Plus 500. So that's 5-1 on your money if they each get 80. Now, that's rarely happens because it's usually one breaks it or one doesn't, or one gets most of the runs. But as I said, you get, against Eastern Washington, if we do want to run the quarterbacks, and that's probably the sucker bet right there, is the week before Cat Grizz, once we get up 14, we're probably not going to be running our quarterbacks as much. That's probably the sucker bet, and I'm the sucker. But why not put $10 on it? You might win 50. That's my thoughts on that. That's it. The UNI, the SIU, and the UM are my 3 picks that actually count towards the record. But I like to have fun with some props, and I like to help out my people back in Montana with the Sports Bet Montana kiosk bets. Those stupid kiosks, you might as well have fun with how dumb they are, What do you got, Colby?
I think you're right that, but Patrick here in the comments kind of making some good points that somehow, even though, like we've said, Eastern has had a really terrible run defense, they have been able to keep it close with the Bobcats, and I don't know how. But one thing I will point out is maybe, I don't know. Do you feel like the quarterback they had last year may be better than the one they had this year? I don't know, because I don't know, man. The numbers tell me that the Bobcats are going to run all over the Eagles. And so I look at that and go, yeah, of course. Like, obviously it's going to happen. I've watched Tommy Malott run all over my team, prolifically for the past 3 years or whatever. And the game is in Bozeman. Like, it's just really hard to win in Bozeman, folks. I don't know if you know this, but it's really hard to win in Bozeman. It's the longest home winning streak in the country right now. What are you guys at, 23? We shouted it out last week, and somebody gave us the number. But it's up there. I mean, so it's tough to win in Bozeman. I look at this game and go, yeah, I think that they could probably. The question is whether or not you feel comfortable with maybe a 3-score game. Can the Bobcats get it done in 3 scores? I don't know. It's up to you. Your choice. But some of my bets now, man, I was trying to stay in the sky, trying to find some stuff that I liked, and there's just not a lot of games that I felt really good about. So I'm going to head back east, and I'm going to start out with Lafayette. Lafayette is a minus 2.5. That game is going to be against, if I remember right, I think it's like Elon or something weird like that. But Lafayette has been a team that I think has kind of, it's against Fordham, that's what it was. So Lafayette's been a team that has, I think, surprised folks, maybe, who haven't been paying close attention. I know I don't pay super close attention to Lafayette, but they have beat some teams that maybe people didn't expect, and they've had some really good momentum. So at minus 2.5 against Fordham, which Fordham I think has gotten better as the season maybe has worn on. I mean, that's just me. That's just like gut feel. But Lafayette seems to be a team getting it done. And so based on that, do I think they can beat Fordham by 3? Yeah, I do. So I'm going to bet them. I'm going to bet Lafayette minus 2.5. I mean, you're free to not do that, but I've been watching them, and they've been delivering. They're sort of like UAlbany right now, where UAlbany is they're getting stuff done out there, and I don't think anybody expected it. So here we are. Well, that's my first pick. Going to see how that one turns out. And then the next up, and I guess we're going to have a conversation about this because we had some folks in the chat disagreeing with the next pick. Kevin, Marshall, namely. I had Mercer minus 2.5 to cover as well. Because Mercer, in the midst of a playoff push, right? They are riding high after beating, Western Carolina team. Like, they are trying to make their case for a spot in the playoffs. Going to be taking on Samford, who has been a team that has underwhelmed this year. I think a lot of people expected Samford to be a lot better than they've been. But if you're watching the chat, man, oh, man, I mean, Kevin Marshall, and it's tough because Kevin is the SoCon. He's the SoCon expert here, folks. He's telling folks Samford money line on this one, and so I don't know, man. So I'm putting it out there as minus 2.5. Kevin's saying take the money line. He's been right about most of these, and so you might be disagreeing with the master here, but the Rev's on my side. I take Mercer. It's in Macon, So it's a home game for the Bears. Hey, we'll see. Samford's, they're coming down. They haven't been good. Mercer needs this one. Samford doesn't. Maybe that's the difference. Next up, I've got SEMO. SEMO. What can we say about SEMO this year, Parlay? You want to talk about a team that's...
Is there a lose in the last 30 seconds prop you found?
You want to talk about a team that has underwhelmed? It's SEMO, right? And last week, losing to Robert Morris was like, I did a double take when I saw that. I was like, you're kidding me. They lost. Robert Morris is a bad team. If SEMO is who they say they are, they shouldn't be. I mean, it's one thing to lose in the final, 5 minutes of games, which they have done with grace or easily so far this season. But losing to Robert Morris is not something you should do if you're a SEMO fan. But man, I'm gonna take SEMO UT Martin under in this week's game because the under is set at 61.5. When I went to Martin when they played Tennessee State a few weeks ago, maybe it was like 3, and I haven't felt like Martin's offense has been great. SEMO has struggled. They've been having these really weird, dumb games, and 61.5 seems like a lot between the two. So, as a person who doesn't necessarily believe in the Martin offense and SEMO having the struggles that they're having right now, I look at 61.5 and go, yeah, I think I'll take the under on that. So, added that one, and it's great. But I like what we got here, guys. We got some wagering going on in the chat here, and I like that Kevin's getting Alex's lemonade stand involved. If you don't know anything about that, go check out Kevin and Stone's podcast and their radio show, FCS Nation Radio, doing some great work with a fundraiser, helping with child cancer and lots of other cool stuff. But check them out. Alex's lemonade stand, part of that. They've got a player each week talking about it, but. We got a wager going on in the chat right now for maybe a donation to Alex's lemonade stand. And then finally, another one. I think did I see somebody say that they? Oh, maybe I didn't. But my final one is I'm taking Monmouth minus 2.5, and you might look at that and go like, I don't know, Colby. Monmouth has really sort of surprised me this year. And the thing that Monmouth has going for it, they run the ball. And when you run the ball well, good things can happen for your offense, right? If you can run the ball, and Monmouth runs the ball. Here's the thing. The team on the other side of the ball is New Hampshire. New Hampshire is just okay at stopping the run. In a 15-team field, they are 9th in conference. So they're not great at it. The only wrench in this might be that New Hampshire is the best team in the CAA at throwing the ball. They average 353 yards through the air a game. So it's a lot. But at the same time, Monmouth is no slouch at stopping the pass. They're 5th in the conference. They're only giving up 186 yards a game. I look at those two things and say, okay, Monmouth can disrupt the pass game for New Hampshire, plus they can run the ball themselves normally because New Hampshire's not great at stopping it. This all, in my brain, adds up to Monmouth can cover 3. I think they can get 3 or more done against these guys. And then I think, just let me double check this. The game is at Monmouth's place, so another advantage to them. Usually, if you're out there and the home team will at least get 3, right? Even if it's like a 50-50 game. This is not. Apparently, the books feel that this is a 50-50 game, but I think maybe Monmouth has the edge. So. That's my final pick for this week. Monmouth minus 2.5. So now parlay. Let's put the weekly parlay together. Last week, not great luck for us. Furman +1 hit. Bill and Mary under hit. Holy Cross. Lehigh.
That was brutal. And I blame Little Parlay, my brother, Big Sky Omai on Twitter, because he texted me at the beginning of the third quarter. Oh, man, that was a good overpick on the Holy Cross. And I was like, oh, thanks. And I hadn't checked that it wasn't over yet. There was no points scored in the 4th in that game. They needed one more touchdown. Just ridiculous. So, that happens. That was a solid parlay we put together last week. And
it looked good, right? Like looked like Furman +1 looks good. Bill and Mary under is money, has been money this season. And then Holy Cross, Sluka's, he's supposed to be putting points up, man.
Well, he's hurt, but still, they were putting points up. They just
that's the thing that got going for him. Yeah.
Second half.
But like you said, a whole fourth quarter, no points. That's going to kill any over, folks. I don't care how low it is. That's going to kill it.
One thing, back to the Mercer chat, I was looking at that just out of curiosity. A lot of times we talk about coming off a bye, rust, blah, 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 but there's a lot of times looking forward to the bye is where the letdown is. And Mercer not only has a bye next week, but that means they don't play in the final week of the season. Yeah. So that's interesting. I don't know how that might affect the game, if it does at all, but I wanted to throw that out there. All right, I've been scrolling. We got guys in the chat. Are they going to pitch in on this parlay this time, or is it all going to be left up to me and Colby? Because we need to get a group parlay in. And I've been scrolling here. Part of me wants to go with the Penguins in the Ice House, but can you really go against the mighty Jackrabbits? 16.5. That's right after your. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put. you know what?
Okay.
They're going to win by 14, maybe 13, maybe 16. I don't care. They're not going to win by 16 and a half because they just played the marker. They're going to the ice house. I think Youngstown State can cover the spread. I think they can get a deep late touchdown that means nothing, but it means something for us parlay bettors. So Youngstown State plus 16 and a half is leg one.
Okay. I think for leg two, I'm actually going to go to one of your picks that I like probably better than all of mine, -7. I like that line a lot.
Yeah, that's hard not to like there. Then let's find
the thing about that line is this: Portland State runs the ball. That's all they do. They run the ball. The Grizz don't let teams run the ball. Do the math. So I like -7.
I was looking for an over-under. I kind of like the under in the NDSU game at 45 and a half. If SIU still can't find their defense. Rev is asking about the Stephen F. Southern Utah, or no, he wasn't asking about that. He was asking about UCA, or let's see, what is he asking about?
Yeah, Patrick's right. Could be a Penguins backdoor cover in garbage time.
Yeah.
Could be, right?
Eastern Carolina. Well, I'm not finding that line.
All right. So here we go.
Kentucky.
The Revs got SUU will beat Stephen F. Austin by 40. I know
Sorry.
The Birds have been better this year. This has been a better year for them. I've won money on the Birds earlier in the season. They kept it close against Arizona State. Won some money on that one. And but 40, that's a lot. What do you think? Let's see what the line is.
Well, yeah, it's a close line. Let's see.
Let's see if we can find it real quick. Here we go. The books have it at 1. SUU -1. SFA +1. How do you feel about that parlay?
You know, I have a feeling that's an emotional take by the Rev. He's a broken man watching his own team this year. I don't know enough about it, but if no one else gets a better line, all right. Let's do Southern Utah, the old Big Sky team. Why not?
Okay. Looking really quickly for that line for Kevin. So Wofford Citadel getting +5 in that one. So so
betting on them both to be demoted to D3.
So we like the SUU. SUU -1 is the bet we're going to go with for the third leg of our weekly parlay. Are we agreed?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. SUU -1. Man, it's been a long time since I talked about the Birds. I miss beating them. I just miss beating the Birds every year. It's just it was almost like beating the Stripes, man. Clockwork. Just beating the Birds. Love it. Miss it. Can't wait for the Beehive Bowl to return. Well, all right, parlay, that's it, man. So YSU +16.5, UM -7, and SUU -1. That's the parlay for this week. We'll see how things go. I think it looks good to me as well. We'll wrap up the show. Like we said at the top, really appreciate the Fans Nation Network for giving us an opportunity to do this on their network, on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Make sure that you're following them on Twitter. They've got they usually put out a lot of really good content. You can stay up to date on the show, some of the polls that they put out, and then make sure to get in their Facebook group. A lot of good conversations going on over there. Usually game threads for every game that is, I'm going to say every game that's important. There's at least one for there. So get in the Facebook group if you're a Facebook person. There's a great group of folks in there, and it's just a good community to be a part of. And then, of course, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube for these guys. Help them continue to grow that channel and just put FCS content out into the world. Finally, let's see. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Make sure to check out the podcasts on the Fans Nation Network. Lots of good stuff. We already talked about YouTube. We talked about Twitter. We talked about Facebook. Parlay, appreciate you, man, for taking a little bit of time to chat lines. Any parting thoughts before we wrap it up?
I can't believe that I'm 1 week away from Cat Grizz, and that is the right way to say it. So look out for the show next week. Not sure what time it's going to drop. I got some plans next Friday. So keep watching the Twitterverse, the X, whatever you want to call it. We'll keep you tuned in. I might even do an inebriated Saturday show. So just my straight man Colby can lead the way while drunk parlay rambles on.
I'll be that post that keeps you there. You know what? What am I at? I'm at like 17 years sober now. I take care of you, man. Don't worry. I got NA beers in the fridge. I'll bring mine out. But that sounds like fun. Cat Grizz is going to be awesome this year. As an outside observer, I think Cat Grizz is going to be a lot of fun this year. And so I'm just hanging out. Obviously, the Dubcats not going to make the playoffs, and so here we are. But Kevin dropped that. Yep, we'll see. Idaho in town to face the Dubcats in Ogden. I don't know, man. No expectations. We'll see how it goes. But Kevin, I put that parlay there in the chat. There it is. So make sure to check it out. Parlay, appreciate you. We'll wrap this one up because it's gone on long enough. Like we always say, AA parlays, bet the best, forget the rest. See you guys.